Hi. In this video, I would like to explain the idea behind the StarSpace algorithm. StarSpace has been a really influential algorithm. Here at Rasa, we've designed TED and DIET with StarSpace in mind, but also outside of Rasa, StarSpace has been applied in many places. And to explain when the algorithm might be useful, I'll pretend that I have a dataset with conversations about restaurants. And I have utterances, so someone might have said, this food was great. Someone might say, I love veggie pizza. Cheap Italian restaurant might also be one. Find me a vegetarian place. And finally, I guess you could have, gimme pepperoni pizza. And these are all utterances, and maybe you would like to be able to cluster them. Group them together based on what's in them. And we might actually have a few labels too. For example, we might have a tag for pizza. We might have a tag for positive, if there was a positive review. We might have something for Italian as well. And let's say also one for meat. And let's then also say we have something for vegetarian food as well as meat. So let's give everything a name now. And I'll have numbers for the documents as well as the tags. And let's say that this dataset was labeled. So that means that you could say, oh, you know, this one document, D2 here, well, we know that that has a tag for pizza, and also one for positive, and also one for vegetarian. And what I could go ahead and do is I can make this table where I've got all of my tags as well as all of my documents. And what I can do in this table is I can just indicate when there was a positive connection between a tag and a document. So for document 2, we had a positive relationship here. We had one here. We had one here. And let's also fill them in for the rest. So this food is great. That is also positive. We have an Italian restaurant over here. Something about being vegetarian. And then we have another reference to pizza and also meat. Now, given this labeled dataset, the idea behind StarSpace is as follows. If there's a tag, and let's say this one over here, and if there's a check mark, then there should be a representation for that tag that is similar to the representation of this document and this document. As far as meaning of the document goes, the meaning of the document should be similar to the meaning of the tag. And that's literally what tags are. So if I were to come up with an embedding for the tag and an embedding for the document, then these two should be close to each other. So theoretically, if I were now to draw out a two-dimensional embedding, well, then I could imagine, if I were to take tag 1 over here, that then document 2 as well as document 5, because again, there's green check marks here, well, I would assume that those are being attracted towards that tag. And similarly, the documents that are not labeled, they should be pushed away from the tag. And if I do that, for all of the tags, for all of the documents, and I keep pushing and pulling, then hopefully at some point, I'm gonna get clusters here. Clusters of documents and tags that live in the same space. And that is the idea behind StarSpace. We are trying to find an embedding both for the document in this case as well as for the tag. There are two types of properties that are both being mapped to the same space. And the nice thing about this is, because tags that are similar to documents should be close to each other, we actually have a couple of interesting use cases. When there's a new document, we might be able to automate the tagging because we just have to look for the tags that are closest to it. When we have a new tag with a couple of documents that are attached, then we might also be able to automatically find relevant documents. And you can also imagine that we might be able to do some recommendation things here. And if we go a step further, what we can also do is right now these are document embeddings, but we might also be able to apply a trick such that we learn word embeddings here. That we get an embedding for every single word in this document. And the thing that's nice about this is that typically, when you're training for a word embedding, the word embedding is learned from a language task. And in this language task, we typically predict the next token from a general text in an unsupervised way. But in this case, you can learn the embeddings based on a domain. You're going to get word embeddings that are relevant to the domain of tags here. So if you have a very domain-specific data set, you might be able to get word embeddings that fit your domain better than if you were just to train them on language in general. So from a principled perspective, this sounds like a great idea, but how do you go about this numerically? So let's look at these documents. These documents contain words. So there's a word there, and a word there, etc. And what I could do is I could represent one document as an array with many zeros in it, and sometimes a 1 which would indicate that a word is actually there. This is the bag of words model, if you would. And I can do a really similar thing for the tags. Let's say there's 10 tags, then I'll have 10 zeros here, and 1 1 per tag. Another description of this might be to say it's one-hot encoded, these tags. Now, comparing these two vectors is hard because comparing zeros and ones is typically hard, but also because the shape of these two vectors is different. This one is typically way bigger, and this one is typically way smaller. And that's because this vector needs to have a slot for every single word in our dictionary, perhaps. So we will need to apply a small trick. How's about I now start looking at this as if it's a neural network. And then this is an input, and so is this. They're just input of a different shape. But what I could do is I could say, hey, you know what? Let's put a feed-forward layer here. And let's do that here as well. And when I do that, now I should be able to say, well, this hidden shape that we have here, this can be a hyperparameter k, but now I can specify that the hidden shape of both of these is the same size. And the thing that's then nice about it is I have gotten my sparse representation on this side, and I've got that into a dense one, and then I can take both and calculate the similarity between them. And the typical thing people like to do as far as the similarity goes is they like to calculate the cosine distance. The cosine distance is if I have two vectors, I'm drawing it out in 2 dimensions here above. Let's say this is vector A and this is vector B. Then the cosine distance between A and B, that will be the angle here. But this is just a metric for similarity, and it's the one that the StarSpace paper seems to suggest is best. But the thing that's nice here is then I have my similarities, and what I can then say here is, well, I've got labels, right? I know when we should have similarities and when we should not. And that is because of the table that you see here. Whenever a tag and a document have a positive label, that's when the similarity should be high. And we have a lot of these examples. And what I can do, for every positive example that I have, I can also sample some negative examples. And I can do that somewhat randomly. In real life, this table will be way bigger, and there's going to be way more negative examples than positive ones. So what you would do is you would do negative sampling. You're not going to put all the examples in here, but you're going to sample enough of them. But by doing that, we have a label because we know which combinations of features going in here and features going in here should yield a positive similarity here. And that means that I have a gradient signal that travels back and is able to update these feed-forward layers. Another way to look at that feed-forward layer, by the way, is technically you could say it's an embedding layer, where we just map a token, be it a word or be it a tag, and we just map that to a vector. But that mapping can also occur by having a feed-forward layer. It's a similar operation. If you've watched some of the previous videos, all of this might sound really familiar, because the glove word vectors are calculated in a very, very similar way. Except there, we don't have these separate tags. In the glove case, tokens are mapped to words above and below, while here the tokens that we have on the bottom side represent tags. So we have two different embeddings, one for words and one for tags here. So let's say we run all of this. What could we expect? Well, what's going to come out of this is a system that is able to accept a tag and give you a point in space, and it's also able to take a collection of words, map each word to a numeric vector, add all of them together, and therefore also be able to map a document to a point in space. But then the nice thing is that this space has specific meaning. So I've drawn a possible embedding below, where there seems to be a region where we have vegetarian preferences, and there might be an Italian corner over here, which I would expect to overlap with the pizza area. And by doing this, you're going to have embeddings that might be more interpretable because the tags have added context to the word embeddings. And if you're training on something that's really domain specific, this idea of StarSpace has merit to it. And that is why StarSpace has been an influential paper, also for us at Rasa. So some of the ideas in StarSpace you'll find back in algorithms like DIET and TED.